Welcome to Watching the Throne.
A lyrical analysis of Kanye West.
My name is Chris Lambert.
And I'm Travis Bean, and this is day 2 of the Jesus is King Advent calendar and podcast form.
What's behind the door for day 2, Travis?
Oh, let's get over here. Oh, we never picked off day 1. Let me get that out there. All right, that was the first episode. We talked about 20 minutes and 17 seconds about our expectations of the new album before Chris cut me off. And then here we go, day 2. In day 2, we're going to be talking about, this is fun, the track list for Jesus is King. Wow.
Well, that is exciting, isn't it?
Yeah, this is fun, as long as you don't cut me off again.
I thought you were kidding, but now this is the fourth time you've brought it up.
Look, I mean, hey, you cut me off on the last episode, and it's not like you haven't.
So we're going into the track list, and the track list is...
Okay, yeah. All right, yeah, let's talk about track list.
Chris
gets to do all the stories and do all the talking, and Travis tries to talk a little bit. No, let's talk about the track list. Let's stay on point, sure.
Yeah, as if I should be the one trying to keep us on point.
You're doing a good job.
Thanks.
It needs to be done.
What do we got for the track list?
Oh, yeah, here we go. Well, supposedly, Kim tweeted it out, but it looks like Kanye took the photo and asked Kim to tweet it out. Unless she stole it off his phone. I mean, that could have happened. We never know. But it looks like Kanye wrote down what looks like is 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 songs on Jesus is King. And we're going to talk about every single one of them.
Yeah, just what we could maybe expect from them topic-wise and what they add up to as a whole, you know?
Yeah, people probably put this on par with our usual analysis where, like, we could form entire lyrical readings of what these songs mean just as much as we could have as soon as the lyrics are out. Like, we're just going to be reading into it that much.
The difference is with the actual lyrics, we have a foundation of evidence upon which to build an understanding. With this...
No, we're pulling it all out of our ass.
Yeah, it's just speculation based on details and maybe giving some insight into where these concepts come from and what they could refer to.
Yeah, so what are we starting with?
We're starting with the little known word called clade.
Clade. Wait, what word did you say?
Did you say glade?
I said glade.
I said clade.
Oh, wait, which one is it?
Is it clade or is it glade? This is actually currently up for debate. There's looks to be like a Tracklist 1.0 in the upper right corner of the photo that got tweeted out. And there, it looks more like a G for glade. But on the more official, centered in the photo version, rewritten and redone, it looks like clade. So if it's glade, that first reading, a glade is, in geography, a clearing in an open area, or a clearing or open area within a forest.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah, glades are often grassy meadows under the canopy of deciduous trees.
I mean, if you had a big open space in a field, I mean, what could you put in there? Like a bunch of people, some instruments, a choir, a piano?
Oh, wow. I think you could. It would be a nice place to have maybe something that's more spiritual, kind of like a spiritual concert.
Yeah, and you could do it on any old day of the week, but say you did it on Sunday.
It sounds like a wonderful day for it.
Yeah, I don't know. That's just speculation. If Kanye was thinking of something like that would be news to me.
Yeah, and Kanye has been on a nature kick in 2018. There's been connections between nature and mental health, with nature often being very therapeutic for people that are dealing with just general depression or stress, but also more anxiety-triggered mental health issues. So it being about nature at the start would make sense, especially with the next track being Garden. That's also a very nature connection. Right. But clade is a word typically associated with biological taxonomical literature. Thank you, Wikipedia.
Well, all of the Watching the Throne listeners, notably, one of their biggest hobbies is taxonomy.
Oh, absolutely. You just sometimes want to know the ancestry of animals.
Absolutely.
But I can almost imagine Kanye in 2018, he tweeted a lot about the dictionary, right? And he was going through and highlighting words in the dictionary that he really liked. And I don't know how deep into the dictionary he got, if he made it all the way through the book, but you have clade, which is pretty early on. And the definition is typically a group of organisms that consists of a common ancestor and all its lineal descendants and represents a single branch on the tree of life. You could imagine why that might appeal to Kanye. And looking at this idea that we're all connected, we're all descendants of God, like there's this thing that connects us, like the tree of life. It has these connotative principles or connotative principles that align, I think, with where Kanye's at in his spiritual practice at this point. Yeah.
Yeah, and assuming this will be a very spiritual and religious album based on the title, and the fact that, I am a God. I mean, I'm going to get into I am a God, so I'm going to lose a lot of people here. But like the whole idea that he's talking about Psalm 82 and this idea that like you become a God by living out God's word, and you become part of what God's mission is, and that's what it means to be a God. And then his last album being called Yea, and Yea being the collective you, and like you're all part of one, like you're all part of this mission to grow and progress in love. And I could see this playing exactly into that.
With that in mind, if clade is the start, right, this is the branch, and then the album ends with Sweet Jesus. Ooh. It's almost like you're following the path to Jesus.
Chris, what are you doing? See, this is what we get in trouble for. We're making insane, probably true connections already.
Right, but that's how this stuff gets organized.
We're just in sync with Kanye.
You look at connections between the first thing that happens and the last thing that happens, because for most artists, they're looking to bring things, to bring it full circle.
Yeah.
Which is why usually like the first shot in a movie tends to be a microcosm of what the journey of the movie is going to be.
Man, now we're getting deep.
One of my favorite examples from Fight Club.
Oh, Fight Club. Oh, God. It was either going to be Fight Club, The Lion King, or like, I don't know, The Sandlot. What's the third one?
A Billy Madison movie, or
Billy Madison.
Adam Sandler movie. But in Fight Club, that movie deals so much with like mental health and sanity and insanity. And you start with the first few shots being synapses firing in the brain. And this journey through the mind, out of the brain, like to a gun. And you have Tyler Durden holding the gun into the mouth of Edward Norton. So they're physically connected through this dangerous weapon. And you started in the brain, and it all leads to that. Like, it's all beautifully representative of what the main struggle is going to be with Edward Norton dealing with this identity crisis and the connection between him and Tyler Durden.
Yeah, that's what this album's doing.
It could be, we're at least seeing like hints that could be the full circle nature of it.
Yeah. So what's so Garden? I mean, that carries the nature theme. So what's the next track?
Well, Garden also, which I forgot to mention, in the Yandhi track list, Garden was on there, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah. Let's pull that up.
Yeah, because I said something at one point that the only song from Yandhi was Water, and somebody said that Garden was actually on it. But I think Garden had been renamed. It was something else at one point.
Yeah, I'm looking at the track list.
I know, here.
I don't see anything.
So 6 months ago, Little Swerve on Reddit posted tracks that we can assume will make the full release of Yandhi. It was 80 Degrees, Garden, The Storm,
Oh, yeah.
slave name, and then a Sunday
Everything
service
we need.
snippet. Yeah. Things of that.
Yes.
So Garden was rumored back then. So
Okay. Yeah. And confirmed by Tony Williams, so we can reach out to him and get some information on this.
Tony.
Because we're best buds now.
The interview with Tony Williams will come soon. We're just waiting on a release date from Tony.
Maybe it's part of the Advent calendar. You don't know.
Could be. It could be. Oh, yeah. It was Tony had tweeted out in January. Heaven's Door, Kanye Sunday Service, song list. Garden was on there.
All right.
Interesting. So we have that. And then Salah, is that how we say it?
We already forgot. I think that's right.
Yeah. It had an emphasis on the end. But that's a word that's brought up in the Bible a lot.
Oh, gosh. Yeah. It's mentioned like, what did I read? Used 74 times in the Bible.
Seems to be a decent amount of times.
And largely in the Psalms, and it's used twice in Psalm 57, which is featured in the photo that Kim tweeted out.
And Christianity.com as our resource says that it's a Hebrew word that tends to mean to lift up, to exalt. So you can see how this might be getting into to exalt God, to lift up, or just to lift up each other. But it also is thought to have been used as a musical notation that could mean silence, a pause, a louder strain. They said that in the Septuagint, which is like this old school 2nd century BCE thing, it meant intermission.
Oh, yeah. And if we really want to get into deep conspiracy shit this early, which we do, because we're stans, and this is all we have right now, in the picture Kanye took, it's Psalm 57 is featured, but it says Psalm 57, 6, verse 6, in particular in the corner. And that verse is, they spread a net for my feet. I was bowed down in distress. They dug a pit in my path, but they have fallen into themselves. Salah. So, just saying.
Yeah, we've talked before about how this might be an album that's dealing with Kanye looking at society and kind of the backlash to him and trying to find ways to deal with the criticisms he faced and finding relief in religion and relief in God and finding empowerment through God. And he has on this track list, slaying the demons, changing opinions. And if people were very critical of him, this idea that they set traps, but they fell into them themselves. So you could almost, I don't know, start to see Kanye looking at this idea that of what people have said about him and to him and dealing with that.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm really interested to see what he does with it, especially knowing that there's a musical connotation to the word. He's probably going to put some poetic spin on it.
Maybe it could just be a skit.
I hope so. I hope God is a skit where it's like I love Kanye. God is this. God is that. God is this. God is that.
Okay.
So yeah, God is the next track though.
Yeah, which
hard to speculate on that one.
Yeah, we don't really have. I like your theory.
Yeah, that's probably what it is.
God is. God is fun.
Is this going to be a repeat of I Am a God? Like, is he going to talk to God?
That would be pretty great. I'm down for anything. Whatever Kanye wants to do with it. And then we have Baptized, which baptism is usually like a Christian rite of admission and adoption.
That was so well put.
As I try to read Wikipedia with dramatic flair. It tends to involve like the pouring of water over a forehead or dunking into water. Some use of water as rebirth, right?
Right.
And babies tend to be baptized.
99% of the time it's babies, but once in a blue moon, an adult will be baptized. They feel the need to kind of be reborn and kind of re-enter their faith or re-enter the world and kind of cleanse themselves of what they've done and be ready to just start anew.
So, yeah, this idea of purification or re-entering the church at some point, I think it's not necessarily like there's been distance. Like that can happen, like somebody strayed away from religion and now they're coming back to it, so they get rebaptized. But also just somebody could be like, I'm at a point in my life, it would be nice. I've been religious my whole life, but I'm gonna get baptized again.
Yeah. And you don't even need to be religious to get baptized. Like you just want a clean slate.
You just want a nice soak in front of people.
Dunk my head in a sink full of water.
How refreshing. So we go from God is to baptized, which you could see as a renewal of faith. That might be a turning point. If there is a narrative structure on the album, as we tend to expect from Kanye albums, this could be a tipping point. Like the first songs are kind of introducing more concepts and ideas, like the people that are connected, the garden itself, what this landscape is. I mean, we tend to look at the garden as part of the kingdom potentially, right? Or
sure.
The Garden of Eden. This place that's more pristine and perfect. And then you get to the idea of Salah, which is just like the music, the intermission,
I love
silence.
That we're theorizing the narrative.
And then God gets introduced in a more formal way, and then you have your baptism.
Yeah, track 4 is God is here. Hey guys, look. Like, he did it.
Yeah, I should be baptized now that I've seen this.
Hey
this
God,
person.
now that I've been baptized, let's go to Sierra Canyon.
Yeah, what a great place to go visit after a baptism. Actually, Sierra Canyon doesn't seem to be an actual like geographical location so much as a school in Los Angeles, which is the high school that Kylie and Kendall Jenner attended. And actually in 2017, Kanye went to a basketball game there, and he went to another one in 2018. So it might be the school system that Kanye's kids end up as well.
Yeah, maybe. And that's really probably the track title alone is the first key insight we have into it being very personal to Kanye. I mean, not that we would expect anything less, but referencing something very specific in his life. You in the middle of the album, like this is very, very much gonna be a personal album.
Right. The other potential is just he liked the name.
Could be.
And he's using it more fictionally than referring to the school. It could be that he creates an idea of what Sierra Canyon is. But if it does refer more to youth and children, the next song being hands-on could look at parenting.
Shit. Yeah, it could be a number of things. I was going to say, too, that later in the album, there's a track called Through the Valley. Not to get too far ahead, but Valley, Canyon, like maybe tying those together, like tying something specific from his life through this very biblical idea of a valley and walking through the valley. I just know he's got to be up to something there.
You mean a motif that repeats?
God forbid.
And after Hands On, you have Wake the Dead, which, no idea. I mean, you might be able to tie it to something relating to family members that have been deceased, especially if Sierra Canyon and Hands On are more focused on his children and like the next generation. You could almost imagine that leading to something about like the people that have passed, like connecting with their progeny, which also gets into the idea of clade, right? You have ancestry being something that's introduced up front and returning to that idea of ancestry.
Oh, wait, did you say clade or clay?
You know, Clazy.
I mean, we're talking about ancestry. Like, Clay knows all about it.
He really does. I mean, he's a clone of Jay-Z. He has to understand his ancestry better than anything.
He does. It's funny. You went into so much detail there. I was just thinking of Lazarus from the Bible.
That could be a thing as well.
It's just so many possibilities.
Well, so, and the last thing we hear on, well, not the last thing, the last Kanye lyric on Yeezus is Jesus wept, right? And that is in the Bible. Again, I've learned so much about the Bible from Kanye. The shortest chapter in the Bible, and it refers to Jesus going and seeing Lazarus's family after Lazarus died and seeing how broken up they all are, and Jesus wept along with them. Somebody that's more religious might be able to correct that interpretation, but from my understanding, that's the reference. And it's after Jesus wept that he then says, like, hey, Dad, can you bring this dude back to life? And God's like, okay.
That's a word-for-word quote.
Dad.
Hey, Dad, come on.
And then Lazarus wakes up from being dead. And he's like,
what's up? Let's party.
Let's celebrate this. And then trips on a rock.
Where's the Henny?
So there is kind of in Kanye's discography an awareness of the idea of Jesus wept and the relation to Lazarus. So it's at least a topic that he's maybe familiar with.
Yeah.
And then we get Water, which Water was played during Kanye's Sunday service at Coachella. And it tends to be... So the verse with Aunt Clemens is, let your light reflect on me, take the chlorine out of conversation. Let your light reflect on me. I promise I'm not hiding anything. And that idea of taking chlorine out of conversation, chlorine is a chemical that purifies the water rather than letting the water be natural. So I could see it being more of a political correctness, right? We need to be able to express ourselves and not have this political correctness being the chlorine in the conversation. Like, we need to not hide, we need to express. And that gets into the idea, like, the storm may come, but we'll get through it. So even if we crash like water, our conversation leads to contention, we're still going to get through it because we have God's love and everything will be okay.
Yeah. I'm mostly excited to see what he does sonically with that song, because I would imagine he's going to blow it up to something different.
Yeah, I can't imagine he would just give us exactly what we heard at Coachella.
No, that has the potential to be like the next Ghost Town or something.
I would love that so much.
We'll see.
We'll see. Only one way to find out.
Go forward in time and listen to the album.
The next up, we have Through the Valley.
The Valley of what? Death?
Yeah, like
who knows?
Typically, that's the line, right? Like, I walk through the valley of the shadow of death. Take a look at my life and realize there's nothing left. Is that how it goes in the Bible?
I think that's how it goes in the Bible, yeah.
But usually the valley references for the Bible, like, we looked it up and there were 70-some, 80-some valley references in the Bible, but most were just like the Valley of Elah, the valley next to Bilo, this valley. It was more location-based rather than...
poetic.
Yeah, like symbolic in the same way that, like, I walked through the valley of the shadow of death. But when you have Wake the Dead and then Through the Valley, you could almost see that idea coming. Like, you wake the dead and then you have to go through the valley with them, which leads to Sunday and Jesus and maybe the idea of resurrection.
Sure.
But Kanye also, on Jesus Walks, you may remember, had the line, I walk through the valley of the shy where death is.
Yeah, I would imagine it would tie back to that and possibly even Through the Wire, because you think about Through the Wire, I know it's referencing a sample, but the whole idea of that song, I feel like, is rebirth and having a second chance, and that seems to be largely what this album Tracklist seems to be getting at.
Yeah, second chances, rebirth.
I mean, it's all there. I mean, it's all speculation, but it feels like it's all there.
Yeah, that he's coming into like this next chapter in his life, or being reborn in this like post 2018 rebaptized, like re-religiousized Kanye.
Yeah, Ye really just feels like a kind of warm up for it, where it was just 7 songs and he was kind of just is more reflective on what he was going through the moment and what the place he knew he needed to get to and how he needed to be reborn again and become a kid again. Like, I feel like this album is going to be the culmination of that. Like, we're going to actually see that happening and see what man comes out on the other side.
Which the last 2 songs being Sunday and Sweet Jesus, they seem to align with something like maybe Sunday, the day of rest. Like, you've made it through the valley and you're able to finally rest. And then you give praise to Jesus now that you're kind of back and reborn and feeling this new energy and this new attempt at life.
I hope we're right about all of these guesses.
Right? Like, when the album's going to come out, we'll just be like, holy shit, we were so far off.
Kanye tweets out that he's scrapping the album because we ruined it.
I listened to this bullshit podcast that guessed everything.
By the way, we didn't tell people this, but we assumed that the 27th day of the Advent calendar will be Kanye coming on the show talking about the album.
Could you imagine?
We don't know yet.
We just started announcing that.
All right. You know what? I that hasn't been confirmed yet, but I'm just going to go ahead and say, like, that's what's happening.
We're going to make it happen one way or the other. No, that would be...
No, really. But we will.
But we will. Who knows? Let's see what happens when we're out in LA next week.
No, we will. It's not who knows.
All right. Book it on the calendar.
This is my Kanye approach to it. Just like, will it into existence.
Will it? Will it real good?
Okay. So is that it? That's a good overview.
Yeah, I think that covers our speculation on what each song it just generally could be referring to and what the album might be adding up to and what we could maybe guess at some of the structure being.
Yeah, 30 minutes of guessing.
Hopefully it was everything you've ever wanted.
What if we're so wrong?
Oh,
like, what was the point of this episode?
Hype.
We just like talking.
We like talking. Speaking of which, do you have anything you want to say before I cut you off?
Yeah, so I've been waiting a while to say this, actually, and I've been thinking about it all day. It's just like something I've really wanted to get off my chest, is that I really, really love, like, from the bottom of my heart, with all my soul and all the passion I can muster, with the power of 1,000 suns, I just want to say that I absolutely love.
All right, thanks for joining us. This was Advent Calendar Day 2. Stay wavy.
And keep it loopy.